everybody, Zon gets 134 here.
And I'm Average Joe Squad as always.
And this is Cyclonus. And welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen, the show where we look at comic books, movies, and everything in between. So, I'm a big Transformers guy, as this one will attest. Yeah. And I've been wanting us to do a little bit of Transformers content. That doesn't mean we'll be doing the movies, unless somebody pays us.
Even then, I'm like, no money's worth that, because those movies are trash.
My God.
I've never even seen those, and I know they're fucking trash.
But, and thankfully, I've been kind of wanting us to do Beast Wars, but that's going to take us a bit, because he's never seen Beast Wars. So he's going to have to watch the show. But I figured we could do something that would be a little bit quicker for us, because it'd be one thing to watch. We don't need to watch the TV show, because literally it has almost nothing to do with the TV show, aside from the characters are from it. And since a certain toy line just released one of the characters from it, and since Hasbro's doing in the studio series this film, I figured, what the hell? Let's review Transformers, the '86 movie. So, a little backstory before we go into this. In 1984, Hasbro acquired the rights to several Japanese toy lines, particularly Diaclone and Microman. There were some others, particularly one of the Valkyrie jets from Macross, which became Jetfire. There were some other lines, I can't remember. There's a bunch of them. Basically, they took these, and with the help of a certain comic book company that you and I both like so much, Marvel, and their then up-and-coming TV animation studio, Sunbow, created a TV show around these characters, known as the Transformers. The show began in 1984. When this movie came out, there were 2 seasons already. The first season and the second season. Which, no lie, the last episode of season 2 is so bad. Because it literally doesn't even... Because it was literally made to, like, get out, like... Because, like, in season 2, they had released a bunch of different, like, robot teams. Because they did a bunch of combiners after Devastator. They did the aerial bots, which is a bunch of jet robots that form into Superion, who's awesome. The Protectobots, which is a bunch of rescue vehicles and a police motorcycle that they form Defensor. With the Decepticons, you had, of course, Devastator, but you also had... I want to say there was some other one, but I don't think a lot of the Decepticon combiners were in season 2. I know Bruticus was, which I have, and Bruticus is awesome. He's just a bunch of military robots, and oddly a space shuttle for one of the arms?
That's weird.
Yeah. Which forms into Bruticus, the one bad Dudicus, as I like to call him. But, literally, the last episode of season 2, the Combaticons, which were what formed Bruticus, got destroyed by Defensor. Literally ripped to pieces except for Swindle, who's an army jeep and also probably the most beloved of the Combaticons, because he is the only one with, like, a real personality, which is literally he's a weapons dealer. He literally decides to sell the pieces of his fellow Combaticons to, like, 80s militias to make Earth money. Because, Earth money is so...
Yeah, that...
Which leads into, I think Bruticus, or not Bruticus, Onslaught's brain is taken by these kids for their science project, which is to build a robot for a science fair project, which causes the robot to go haywire and literally fight Defensor and beat all the Protectobots up. It's really bad. And this is coming from the same season where some of the Autobots got picked out to be movie stars in a movie.
Yeah, this...
And also the episode...
This kind of shit's why I can't get into this. There's too much shit going on.
To be fair, the 84 cartoon didn't really have, like, a plot. It literally was just, here's what the Autobots and the Decepticons are doing today. Sometimes it's actually serious stuff, like causing a big battle that destroys, like, a forest because they want this special like, or like they talk about, like, protecting the environment because that's, like, a big factor in the show. And then sometimes Powerglide has a human woman fall in love with him, or Oh, the one I had that was like my first one. Oh, Sea Spray wants to become a mermaid so that he can live with his mermaid woman on an alternate planet. Yeah. So forget all that because literally this movie doesn't take place at the same time because the original show actually took place in '84, like in the '80s, like it literally took place in the time like it was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the big plot points is that the Autobots and Decepticons crash landed on Earth around the time of the dinosaurs. They didn't wake up again until the Autobot ship Teletran 1 was awoken up by the eruption of Mount St. Helens that occurred in 1984. So this show takes place like several decades into the future, where like the Transformers technology has actually kind of made Earth have more advanced technology. It takes place in the distant future of 2005.
Dates this quite a bit.
Yeah. But basically, like, almost none of the characters from seasons 1 and 2 show up. The only ones that do are, like, the Autobots that showed up when the show first aired. Like, you have Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Jazz, some of the guys from season 2, like Perceptor and Blaster, the Decepticons that were there, like Astrotrain and Blitzwing, who were triple changers, aka robots that had two different alt modes. But most of this is new cast, like Ultra Magnus, Springer, RC, Cup. Oh, and of course the Dinobots are here because when I think robots that turn into vehicles, I think giant dinosaurs. And basically, the main premise is that the Decepticons have control of Cybertron, but the Autobots have control of the two moons of Cybertron. And basically, the Autobots, in a desperate attempt to try and start a coup, send a fleet of Autobots, hopefully undetected by the Decepticons. Unfortunately, the Decepticons already know because they sent Laserbeak, one of Soundwave's cassettes, to spy on the Autobots. This leads the Decepticons to create a siege on the Autobots' colony on Earth known as Autobot City, which eventually leads to Optimus and a group of Transformers, mainly Optimus and the Dinobots. There were some other Autobots with them, but like they don't show up after this. And they try to prevent Megatron from completely razing the city. Unfortunately, this leads into the final battle between Megatron and Optimus, which leads to Optimus's death. While all this is going on, a giant planet that eats other planets known as Unicron is slowly making his way towards Cybertron, and he finds the dead Megatron as the Decepticons on their way to Cybertron via Astrotrain have to lighten the load or else they won't make it back. Starscream, the second in command of the Decepticons and also the world's biggest traitor, throws Megatron off the ship because he's half dead. So Unicron, taking these fallen and still barely functioning Decepticons and Megatron, is like, I need you to go back to Earth because Ultra Magnus has the Autobot Matrix leadership. Thank you. And it's the only thing that can destroy me. Megatron's like, fuck you, I don't do that. And Unicron, who's voiced by Orson fucking Welles, is like, nah, brah, you either work for me or I kill you. Megatron's like, well, when you put it that way. And he gets reformatted into Galvatron, who most people probably know the voice acting, because the voice acting in the original Transformers was amazing. Because they had guys from Hanna-Barbera, like Casey Kasem, Frank Welker as Megatron, Peter Weller as, of course, Optimus Prime. When he is reformatted into Galvatron, he is voiced by Leonard Nimoy. So we have to do this review for Nimoy. For Nimoy! But, and of course...
Still not ever playing that fucking game. We're not ever doing that.
I say we were playing the game, I just wanted to make the AVGN reference. Leave me alone. Don't act like you've never made AVGN references on this show. And of course...
We're completely original here.
Yeah, of course, which also introduces us to Cyclonus, who is... There's a bit of contention of who he's reformatted from. I want to say he's either reformatted from Thundercracker or Skywarp, or potentially one of the Insecticons. Him, and sadly, I haven't seen him yet, Scourge, which He transforms into the hovercraft that Luke had in A New Hope. That's not even me making a joke. He basically turns into the hovercraft from A New Hope.
You mean the land speeder?
Yeah, land speeder. Well, obviously it's a hovercraft because they can't say it's the land speeder because
No, I know.
copyright reasons. But and so Galvatron and his two other heralds of Unicron go to Earth to try and get them Autobot matrix of leadership. While this is going on, well, actually, they go to the Cybertron first and get the rest of the Decepticons, but then they go to Earth. While this is going on, Unicron shows them like, while you're doing that, dog, I'm going to snack on Cybertron's moons, which Spike, who is one of the human allies of the Autobots, is on that moon. His son Daniel's like, no, what's happening to my dad? But that's not important because nobody gives a shit about Daniel. And so the Autobots are more like, we got to go to Cybertron to try and stop Unicron. And that's the basic plot. So, what were your thoughts when you were watching this film as we were...
As someone who's never seen it, and I'll be honest, I have, like, never been able to get into Transformers at all.
Yeah.
Like, even when I was younger.
Which fair.
I mean, it was okay. I mean, it was a pretty decent movie. I wasn't bored by it. Which I guess was, like, was the good thing. I mean,
yeah.
Like, it didn't knock me out, per se, but, I mean, it was still a pretty decent film.
What did you think of the voice acting? Because I think that's one of the highlights of like this series is like the voice acting surprisingly strong for.
It was decent. It was definitely decent.
Were you surprised by like the different like really like big voices in this, like Orson Welles? And,
yeah,
like,
I was like, wow, I didn't know they were in this at all.
Yeah, Orson Welles is hilarious because like this is like one of the last films he did before he died, and someone interviewed him because they were like, why'd you do, like, this Transformers film? I wasn't saying it was because, like, his grandchildren were like, you gotta do this. Because his grandchildren were big Transformers. And the other was, like, he's like, all I remember while filming this, because I think he was drunk when he filmed this. A big shocker. He was like, all I remember, it was, I played a big toy that ate other little toys. Which, I honestly, like, I love his portrayal of Unicron because, like, literally, Unicron is just robot Satan. But like he gives like this gravitas to Unicron, even though he's not really trying. Like, you know, like where he's like, I am Unicron. I will revive you, but you must go to Earth and kill Ultramagnus, and bring me the Autobot Matrix of Leadership. It is the one thing, the only thing that can destroy. Like, that part where he introduces, like, Cyclonus and Scourge is, like, one of my favorite parts, where he's like, Cyclonus, the warrior, and his deadly armada. Scourge, and his huntsmen, the sweeps. Like, to be fair, like, I feel bad, because, like, we were watching this, I was quoting the movie the entire time, because, like, I love this movie. I have it, like, memorized. But yeah, no, him and Leonard Nimoy are amazing in this. Eric Idle does the Junkticons, particularly their leader Rutgar, which, how'd you like that they basically were just, like, the Raiders from, like, Mad Max?
It was like, I was like, oh, I can tell this is the 80s.
Oh. The soundtrack is also really, really good. There's so much, like, 80s metal and, like, fucking Stan Bush doing the theme songs for Optimus and Hot Rod with The Touch and Dare. I think, because I've told you about the soundtrack, I don't think you actually understood how 80s the soundtrack was.
As soon as I heard, I was like, this is like the most 80s. This is more 80s than 80s, the heavy metal movie.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I always love showing this movie to people because, like, for one, the soundtrack is amazing, and it's so quotable, like the scene where, like Ironhide's getting all pissed off because, like, seeing the Decepticons doing this to Cybertron really grinds my gears. When are we gonna finally do something, Prime? Ironhide, I want you and a group of Autobots to go to Autobot City. But Prime, we need Energon Ironhide in order to mount an assault on the Decepticons. Like I literally can like quote this whole movie. The other thing I love referencing is the fact that this movie is literally just ripping off so much of Star Wars. Like, Unicron is literally just the Death Star. Although, admit it, how awesome would Star Wars be if the fucking Death Star just turned to a giant fucking robot. Like, if the Death Star just suddenly turned into fucking, like, a giant robot Darth Vader. You, don't lie, you would love that. You would.
Maybe.
Maybe. But, like, what... Alex, I don't think you actually believe me how much this ripped off Star Wars until you watched it. What were your thoughts when we were,
Man, this rips off Star Wars.
Yeah, like the scene where, like, where Cup's talking to the Dinobots about his different war stories, and in the background we see Hot Rod fucking training with a lightsaber that he never uses after that scene. The fact that, like, RC's design is that she has, like, Leia's buns on, like, the side of her head. Did you have a Transformer that you liked when we were watching this? If you had any?
I can't really say. I mean, I didn't hate any of them.
That's fair. I figured you might have liked Springer, seeing as how he's basically Han Solo.
Yeah, like I said, they were all pretty good. I can't really think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, fair. Were there any highlights of this that you
Yo, how annoying this fucking kid was throughout the whole movie.
Daniel, yeah. Like, it's like... I feel bad, but, like... This movie, if it's anything that, like, it and the other Transformers films have, is I don't give two shits about the human characters. Like, I paid... Because we watched this on a VHS that I have, because I don't actually have the DVD collection, like, the restoration version of this. We were watching it on our old Kid Rhino VHS, which... For those of you who don't know Kid Rhino, it's actually what eventually Shout Factory became. But, like, every time they cut back to Daniel, I'm just like, now the movie's just slowing down for a couple of fucking minutes. No, I'm sorry. Daniel is so annoying and just...
Unnecessary.
Like, that's... Like, there's, like, a whole scene where they show him getting used to the exosuit that he's going to be wearing for the rest of the film. And I'm like... I don't care. Like, we're on the planet Junk. I want to see them fixing the ship. The only other character I think is even remotely more annoying than him would have to be Wheelie, the character that the Dinobots find on the planet Quintessa, who speaks in rhymes, and his voice is like in this weird like pitch thing that they did with it. Friend, fine, look behind. You go wrong way, you fool! I say. I'm like, oh my god. Which I feel like he's supposed to be like Yoda. Except Yoda's actually cool.
This guy's just annoying as fuck.
He literally is just a little toy car that shoots a slingshot. That's not cool. But, probably highlights for me would be actually the stuff on Quintessa, just because, like, it's so weird and, like, fucked up. Like the part with, like, the judge of Quintessa, the Quintessan judge, and he, like... Everything's backwards, where he's like, guilty or innocent. Innocent! And then they drop the dude in the... which I always love the Sharkticons, which I actually have, I have a Sharkticon, and I have an Alicon, which we're introducing this. And I love the Shark... Like, be honest, when you saw the Sharkticons, what did you think when you were going to see them?
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, this? They don't even look like sharks. They look like piranhas. I don't know why they didn't just call them Piranhacons, because that would have worked just as fine. The other one is in the planet Junk during the fighting with the Junkticons, where they have fucking Weird Al's Dare to Be Stupid, which was made for this film. I was like,
okay.
Granted, it works with like when the Junkticons finally start working with the Autobots. Because like it's supposed to be like this big celebration, which they're supposed to be the Ewoks. Just throwing that out there. They're supposed to be the Ewoks.
That's what I figured out.
But, like, it's just kind of weird just how much, like... This movie introduces all these new characters, and granted, some of them are pretty good, because I like the Junkticons. I like Springer and Ultra Magnus, which... I think I told you this when we were watching it. Ultra Magnus was actually supposed to be a power-up for Optimus Prime. Because the toy, He's actually I think called Super Convoy in Japan. The white truck that because like Ultra Magnus because they didn't really do a good job of showing what Ultra Magnus's alt mode is. Ultra Magnus is supposed to be like one of those like trucks that has like that you see carrying cars.
Yeah,
I forget what they're called.
It's just an auto. It's an auto carrier.
Yeah, an auto carrier.
An auto carrier.
It's like basically. The semi truck of that is actually just a white Optimus, Which is actually why, like, a lot of times if you see Ultra Magnus, sometimes he's the big, what you saw here. Other times he's literally just an albino Optimus Prime. Like, the Ultra Magnus figure I have, the middle of him is a semi-truck that pops off from the carrier. It turns into an albino Optimus Prime. But he was originally supposed to be, like, a power-up for Optimus. But, like, I think something would happen because, like, a lot of people like to act like Transformers always had, like, this guide. Because there is a Bible that they followed.
Yeah.
Not so. Because I think what happened was someone accidentally was like, oh, well, that's Ultra Magnus. He's just a new character. And someone was like, okay. And then that's how we got Ultra Magnus. There are certain versions where they actually try to imply that Ultra Magnus and Optimus were brothers. Particularly the Japanese anime Car Robots. The thing with that, though, is, like, those weren't actually supposed to be Optimus and Ultra Magnus. The leader of the Autobots in that is a fire truck character named Fire Convoy. He's not supposed to be Optimus. But when that show came over here, they're like, his name's Optimus Prime. Okay. but yeah, probably the other thing I really love is that end fight inside of Unicron, particularly the fight between Hot Rod and Galvatron. Which I feel so bad because I love Hot Rod before he becomes Ultra Magnus, because, like, I think you kind of saw he's kind of lively. He's like Luke, but, like, he's got, like, more of a personality. Well, okay, I shouldn't say, because Luke had a personality. It's just I think he was overshadowed by Han in the original trilogy. But, like, I like the upbeat, like, fun he had. Come season 3, Hot Rod becomes, like, a big wet blanket because they wanted to kind of make him different from Optimus, where, you know, Optimus is like, well, you saw, he was like, you know, I'm Optimus Prime, I'm basically John Wayne. And, like, so, like, they wanted to kind of make him, like, this unsure young leader. He's like, you know, but, like, it comes more off as he's just like, I'm the leader, I guess. Like, especially because, like, you can kind of tell eventually they got tired of doing that, so Ultra Magnus became the leader of the Autobots. But, also, how okay, so moving on, let's talk about the big controversy of this movie, because, like, there was a controversy in this movie. What did you think about all the violent death that was in this movie?
Yeah, it was a little more violent than I expected it to be.
Like, the opening scene where, like, the Decepticons just murder all those Autobots. My favorite being the part where Prowler gets, like, shot, and then, like, you see the smoke come out of his mouth and his eyes go dark. I was like, holy shit. Like, I remember, because I was, like, 5 years old, I rented this from Hollywood Video. I got to that scene, I'm like, I thought this was just gonna be a fun cartoon about giant robots. This got a little much for me. Like, because this movie actually kind of changed the way, like, kids' TV shows did direct, like, cinematic movies. For instance, this had a big effect on the G.I. Joe movie, but basically this was supposed to be, like, a way for them to introduce new toys. So, like, well, let's kill off the other toys, because, you know, kids don't care about the toys that came before. Except that, like, we spent 2 seasons and, like, 2 years with these other characters. So, like, basically, long story short, imagine it's, like, 1986, and you're a big Transformers kid. You went to go see this. You probably even brought some of the toys in with you, because you wanted to watch this. And you get to the scene where Optimus Prime just fucking dies. We see him on his deathbed. And, like, he turns gray and his head lilts. What do you think your reaction would have been as, like, a 5-year-old if you were, like, a big fan of Optimus Prime?
Probably be pretty upset, honestly.
That's what happened. Like, they actually got letters from kids being like, could you bring Optimus back to life? Because, like, I'm 12 and my dad not around, so Optimus was my dad. Why'd you kill my dad, Hasbro?
Hasbro, I don't give a fuck.
Actually, no. Hasbro actually did, because they were like, don't be upset. Because literally in the G.I. Joe movie, Duke, who was the leader of G.I. Joe, dies in that film. In order to prevent that from being what happened with the Transformers, they're like, no, Duke didn't die here. He just slipped into a coma. He literally got a spear through the heart, and he
A
slipped
little
into
more
a
than a
coma.
coma. He's dead. He's basically dead.
Well, because at the end of that movie, they actually put in they dubbed in a line that's like, "Guys, I got news. Duke woke up from his coma. He's okay."
What the fuck?
Yeah, they literally did that because they were like, "We don't want a repeat of what happened with the Transformers."
I could be totally mean and be like, maybe kids need to get used to the idea of death because it comes around all the time.
Well, to be fair, because this movie,
There's me being heartless, basically.
like, to be fair, like, it didn't help that, like, as you saw here, like, Transformers were killed off screen, like, Gears and, like, a bunch of the other Autobots were just...
Yeah.
It's like, they didn't even get, like a send-off. Like, at least Optimus, even with, like... Because a lot of people didn't like Hot Rod either because of that scene where he tries to stop Megatron from shooting.
Yeah.
I actually argue, like, Optimus was just gonna fucking shoot him dead there. Like, even when... With Megatron pulling that piece, I'm pretty sure Optimus was gonna shoot first. Because, like... A lot of people, when they... You know that line where Optimus is like, Megatron must be stopped. Like... A lot of people think that, like, that was Optimus' way of saying, like, I'm gonna give my life for the Autobots. I think it was finally that Optimus... Because one of the things I like in the show is that, like, Optimus and Megatron did work together occasionally. Like, you kind of had this sense that Optimus and Megatron respected each other. And I think Optimus was kind of... One of his big problems was, like, should I kill Megatron? Should I just kill Megatron and finally end this needless cycle of violence and death that has been the Civil War? And I think here, where he's killed so many of his friends and destroyed, like, the city that they built on Earth, I think that was finally Optimus' way of being like, I can't let Megatron live. I have to finally put an end to this cycle of violence. It's like, I love that scene where, like, Megatron, like, sees the blast. He's like, no more, Optimus Prime, I beg you. Optimus is like, you who are without mercy now beg for it? I thought you were made of sterner stuff. Like, I'm like, no, Optimus had enough here. He's like, I'm gonna fucking finally murder this bucket-headed motherfucker. At least that's what I got. What was your...
That was basically the same thing I got out of it.
Like, especially, like, the part where, like, Megatron pulls out the fucking lightsaber and, like, that, or, like, how, like, Optimus is just like, why throw your life away so recklessly? That's a question you should answer yourself, Megatron. Like, no, like, oh, this movie's so quotable. Then I just love that scene because, like, Optimus just rolls in and just waffle stomps, like, every single Decepticon. Like, he runs over the Insecticons. Like, they're like, blasting him, and he just jumps into the air. Which, fun fact, that is the last time you see Optimus' trailer. A lot of people like to make jokes that his trailer's still in Autobot City, and it's just laying there waiting for someone to use it. What's your thoughts on Hot Rod's alternate new mode when he became Rodimus Prime?
Oh, near the end of the movie?
Yeah.
It was okay.
You like the space Winnebago?
I mean, it was okay in the fact that it looks fucking absolutely lame. Like,
No, I get what they want to do, because, like, it's supposed to be like it's a futuristic semi-truck, because Hot Rod already... I mean, granted, I liked Hot Rod's original alternate mode better, like the space Hot Rod, like the space, like... I forget, I'm trying to figure out what that would actually be based on in real life, because I feel like it's based on, like, a car model from the 80s.
It probably is. I would have to go back and look at it again.
But they wanted to kind of make it like his car mode became, like, a semi-trailer. But I'm like, that just looks like a Winnebago. It really just...
Yeah.
Like, especially when you compare it to, like, Ultra Magnus's car mode, which looks pretty cool, right? Or, like, Springer, who has, like, the alt modes of the car and the helicopter mode. Fuck, even RC looks cooler. And RC's alt mode is a remote control car. One of my favorite characters in this is Blur, who is voiced by the dude who, like, was in the Guinness World Book of Records for being the fastest talker in the world. Like, a lot of people think that that's an effect they did to his voice. No, he actually is doing...
Yeah, he's actually just talking like that.
Yeah. Decepticon! Shoot him out of the air, shoot him out... Then it's out the walls, we shoot him out the walls, shoot him in the air. So where does that leave us? Nowhere, that's where. That's, like, one of my favorite lines of his. The other, of course, I love Blaster. I'm so sad Blaster, like, after Autobot City is no longer there. Fun fact, the original advertisements for the Transformers toys, one of them had Blaster in it, and the ad said that Blaster was the leader of the Autobots.
Oh my god.
Which he's not. He's the Autobots' I'm trying to what would be like the radio guy, like the name of like that, like
What, a radio technician?
yeah, radio technician. Like he's their
Like a radio operator, basically.
yeah, like him and Decepticon or him and Soundwave are like that for each side because like Decepticon's the radio guy and also the infiltration guy. What did you think of Soundwave? Because I love Soundwave.
I like the design, definitely.
And his voice is great. He's also voiced by Frank Welker. But I love that scene where both him and Blaster shoot out their little cassette buddies and the cassettes start fighting with each other. like Rewind is like shooting at Ravage. That and I love that scene where like Perceptor tells Blaster to send a message to Prime on Autobot City, and then like Rumble and Frenzy. Which, fun fact, that's another points of contention. So in the toys, Rumble is blue and Frenzy is red. In the TV show, Rumble is red and Frenzy is blue. I personally go with the TV show but there's actually contention of which is which. Like some people go with the movie and some people go with the toys.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I go with Rumble as red and Frenzy is blue, just because Rumble red, it would make sense. But I love that scene because like the part where Rumble's like, first we crack the shell, then we smash the nuts inside. Then the part where they're all over like Perceptor. He's like, run, Blaster, save yourself, because he's supposed to be C-3PO. But I love it because Blaster's just like, no, fuck this. And then he sends out his little guys and they start fighting. Oh, I love it. But yeah, I love him and Jazz because him and Jazz are actually both voiced by black guys. So like they're actually considered as like the black Transformers. Because like Jazz is voiced by fucking Scatman Crothers. Like but I could gush about this movie a lot, but yeah, it's kind of funny because like the fact that like all these characters die, and the fact that it's kind of one of the reasons why like movie tie-ins to TV shows like they actually have like a standard set because of just which I don't think the death is that bad because like they're robots. Although my favorite part is the fact that like Ultra Magnus gets blown to pieces, and the Junkticons just put him together and he's fine. Meanwhile, Optimus just got a couple holes in his torso and he's just dead.
Like there's not consistency to it, basically.
Yeah. Well, because like, and again, going back to the TV show, which there's an episode where Blitzwing blasts and runs over a bunch of the Autobots and like flattens them and rips them to pieces and makes them into a chair. He literally takes them and makes them into a chair, and they're fine. Next episode. But to be fair, Optimus does come back, and I think at the end of season 3 he gets revived. It actually comes to the point where pretty much every Optimus Prime in every other TV show dies and then comes back to life. I think the only one that didn't was Car Robots. But pretty much it becomes a running gag that Optimus has to die and then come back to life. Which is kind of one of the reasons why I hated in the second Transformers film they show Optimus dying. And I remember people were like, you think maybe he'll actually stay dead? I'm like, do you honestly think that they're going to permanently kill one of the most popular Transformers for this live action piece of shit when they couldn't even fucking like it's great, a lot of Transformers die in those movies, but I'm like, y'all realize that Optimus Prime is like the mascot for Transformers, right? They're not going to keep him dead in these. But yeah, overall I like this movie. I actually recommend it over the live action. Would you recommend this to?
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed this a lot. Like I've seen bits and pieces of the live action movies, and I've never enjoyed them.
Yeah, like at least here, like it has like the charm that you like. Like if we were to ever sit down and watch episodes, I would pick out the ones that I think are either like really good or the really really dumb. It's because like I go into watching the G1 show and I know a lot of people have a lot of respect for the show. I do as well, but like it's really goofy. In my opinion, this is like the best written of the shows. Like I know a lot of people don't like the fact that like all these characters die, but like the fact that like some of them come back to life anyways, or like get replaced by characters that I kind of like more, like Cyclonus. I think that you can watch, especially because like you really don't need to like watch the TV show because like the opening text crawl gives you all you need to know, which I love because I think that was like the first thing. You were watching this. I'm like, this takes a lot from Star Wars, and then we get to the text crawl. You're just like, you're just like, son of a bitch. This really is just Star Wars. Also, fun fact. Before we completely wrap up, one of the animators on this was because this was actually done by a Japanese company that animated this. One of them was TMS, as in the guys that did Batman the Animated Series.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I hope they didn't do the episode where the Transformers go to the Middle East. I've told you about this one. They go to a Middle Eastern country known as Carbomia.
Yeah, no, that...
Because it was the 80s
racist.
and Ronald Reagan had a thing about the Ayatollah Khomeini. Which actually was so offensive to Casey Kasem, who... I want to say he has like a Middle Eastern descent somewhere in his family lineage. He quit the show. He actually... I think he did Ironhide... He did Cliff Jumper. He did a lot of voices. Fun fact: one of the voice actors in here is actually the guy who does Drew Pickles from the Rugrats. But then also there's I think Don Messick's in there. Like there's like a lot of like Hanna-Barbera voice actors. But yeah, I like I said, I would recommend this. If you really want to watch something like G1 that like doesn't really need a lot of story, or like you think the show's a little too silly for you, I would recommend this. As a rating, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. It's a very solid film. I recommend if you're gonna pick this up, pick up the 35th anniversary DVD because it's the cleaned up version of it. I don't think it actually has a Blu-ray release. If it did, it's pretty current. It used to be on 2-Bit TV Online, but I don't think there's a way you can watch it like streaming. So you're gonna have to pick up a DVD set. If you want to watch the TV show, you're probably gonna have. I think there are DVD sets for it, but unfortunately, I think they're out of print. So you may have to pay a little bit for them. But yeah, I think if you want to watch the G1 show, it's fun. It's a little silly in places, but no, you can. There is a 30th anniversary edition for it on Blu-ray. It's a pretty decent price too, only $14. What was your rating of this?
I'll probably get a 3 out of 5 as well, honestly.
Yeah, and I hope we get to do a little bit more Transformers content. I wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about the history of it, but I'd need to. I need to look a little bit more up into the history. I know there's a lot of it, particularly the fact that Marvel is kind of unfortunately, Marvel no longer really has a tight connection to them anymore because Marvel eventually canceled their comics, and IDW owns them. But it's kind of funny to see how much of this was made by Marvel, and you can kind of tell just because of like they did a lot of lore. There's almost like a Jack Kirby kind of feel to the lore of the Transformers. But, yeah. I do hope we will get to Beast Wars at some point this year. We're working on it. We're not going to do Beast Machines because fuck that show. I don't know if I really will do any more shows, but I do want to talk about Beast Wars, especially because, like, I think we're coming up to the 25th anniversary of Beast Wars. But, yeah. So, anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let us know what you think about the movie in the comments. And look forward to whatever we're doing next. But until then, guys, I'm Zangetsu134.
I'm Average Joe Squad.
And as always, we ask you.
Remember the hyphen?
And take care.